Charlie Carlyle was a young man of 24 years of age and had a bright future ahead of him. He came from a wealthy family, president or co-founder of half of the clubs at his high school, and captain of his lacrosse team. This young man graduated at the top of his class with honors and a 4.8 GPA, getting into his top 5 choices for colleges. He was his town's golden boy, yet he did not have his golden girl by his side. As a mortician intern at Tufts University, Charlie was working his obligatory 48-hour shift in the surgery wing. He was exhausted, worn out, and his feet hurt so much from the work shoes he decided to break in that day. All he wanted to do was to go home and crawl into his nice, warm bed for a long sleep. However, as his droopy brown eyes slowly scanned the halls as he walked down it, he met the girl of his dreams. Charlie stumbled and caught himself on the gurney he was pushing, mystified. Soft blonde curls, bright emerald eyes, and plump pink lips bring character to the circular-shaped face that had tears streaming down it. He thought she was beautiful, an angel, and she was walking toward him for some reason. Charlie straightened up and fixed his doctor's coat as she approached him. All he wanted to do was run his knuckles down that creamy, soft skin covering her cheek. A small blonde curl kept making its way in front of her eyes, and he kept brushing it away, but never fully getting it behind her ear. She was clearly hysterical, with the continuous crying and her lips moving rapidly as her chin quivered. Charlie didn't hear a word she said, completely mesmerized by her beauty. Yet all Charlie could think about was that one small curl moving in front of her eyes. He just wanted to touch it. Slowly, Charlie took his hand off of the gurney and brought it to the young woman's face. He caressed the curl between his index finger and his thumb, and then tucked it behind her right ear. The young woman stopped crying during this altercation. When she met Charlie's brown eyes, she collapsed into his arms. Charlie caught her, surprised at this sudden warm body so closely pressed against his. He felt everything from her heaving breasts to her shaking knees as she wrapped her thin arms around his waist. He forgot about the gurney holding the dead woman, another woman with blonde hair and green eyes who died from a gunshot wound in the chest. He hesitantly wrapped his arms around the living woman's narrow waist, her crying now fully reinforced. Charlie led her to the waiting room and sat with her in an empty chair. One hand held hers and the other pat those golden locks that enraptured his attention. He was fascinated with how it shined in the fluorescent light of the hospital. A whiff of Fraser came across his nose, and Charlie wondered if it came from her hair. Leaning his head down, Charlie sniffed her hair and suppressed the groan that built in his chest. Beautiful, beautiful Fraser filled his lungs. And this is where their relationship began. Charlie and the Golden Girl, as he called her, were inseparable. They went out to eat, went to the park, and often spent late nights together at her place. He was absolutely smitten with her. This mortician student was absolutely in love with this lively woman who had the hair the color of the sun. He wouldn't let her out of his sight, following her everywhere she went. He made sure to make a list of their favorite places to go, what she liked to get there, and how often they went. Her favorite coffee house was the Thinking Cup. Every morning she would get mint tea with 2 splashes of cream and 1 spoonful of honey. That spoonful was always added first so that the tea really mixed in it. Her favorite Italian restaurant was Salvatore's. The waiter would bring her chicken Alfredo with penne pasta and a small caprese salad on the side. Only red tomatoes. During the summer, she would have a glass of Angelina Jolie's and Brad Pitt's rosé, and during winter, she would have a nice goblet full of Merlot red wine. Golden Girl preferred the public gardens over Boston Commons, and she liked Frasia's over roses. Her favorite color was lavender, her favorite dogs were bloodhounds, and she loved to go out in the rain and let the water run along her white, creamy skin. Charlie kept all of this in a tiny gold notebook that he carried with him everywhere. He would document every minute detail of what went on during their dates. especially how her hair looked or if there was a strand out of place. He kept a clump of her hair in a small plastic bag on the first page of the notebook that he took from the night they first met. Even months after, it still smells like Frasia's every time he opens the bag. The silky strands were delicate to the touch, and he just couldn't resist tracing his fingers along them. Charlie always made sure that they were flat after he zipped the bag back up, and before he closed the book. He loved his golden girl. He wrote little poems, attached them to bouquets of Frasia's, and left them on her front step almost every night. Charlie would wait by a tree in the park across the street, hoping to get a glimpse of his precious golden girl. He would stay in the shadows of the trunk, or would climb into the branches so the leaves would hide him better. He enjoyed watching her door open slowly and see her light hair reflect from the light. He admired how it would fall past her shoulder and graze her cheeks as she bent down to get the bouquet. Charlie would smile as she smelled the Frasia's, shivering as he saw her chest rise from the big inhale of air. Then he would be confused when he saw her frightened face as she read the poem. She would then throw the bouquet in the trash on the street. Did she not like it? He'll have to write a better one for the next night. He would often stay long after her light went out, sometimes moving to the tree directly in front of her window. He liked to watch her sleep from the spot he sat in the tree outside her window. Charlie never wanted to leave his pretty golden girl, and he certainly did not want her to leave him. Tonight is a special night for Charlie and his golden girl. Charlie walks down a street of restaurants on his way over to her home. There's a bounce to his step as he recites his lovely poem to himself. He can't help the bright smile on his face as he thinks of giving the Frasia's, swinging at his side, to his sweet, sweet darling. To hear her bubbly laugh, see those pink lips stretch over those pearly whites, and the corners of those green eyes crinkle. To feel her small, delicate body in his arms as he would tuck her hair behind her ears and then lean his head down to mold his lips to hers. To kiss her slowly, tenderly, lovingly. Charlie suddenly stops walking, confused. He cocks his head to the side, then turns slightly around. The name on the building says Salvatore's, but it couldn't be. That couldn't be his golden girl sitting at their favorite table at the window. That couldn't be his golden girl looking shocked as she looks down at a young man down on one knee. That could not be his golden girl allowing that hideous monster to slide a ring on her finger. It just could not be. But it is. Charlie feels cold, and the flowers fall limp to the ground. He doesn't understand what is happening. Why would she be with another man? She is his, and only his. Charlie knows everything about her, from her favorite color to when her mom's cousin's sister's birthday is. She loves the poems he writes her and the flowers that he sends her. She is his golden girl. Charlie sees red when he sees them kissing. His gaze narrows past the happy couple to see the vase full of Frasia's on the table. They are beautiful, and his eyes snap to the ground to see the pathetic bouquet he bought. Rage shivers up his spine, and he lifts up his foot to bring it down harshly on the flowers. Again and again, Charlie smashes his foot into the flowers, tearing the petals apart and grinding them into the concrete until it stains pink. People stare, and mothers with young children quickly bustle to the other side of the street to avoid him. After a couple of minutes, Charlie looks back up at the window. The customers stare back, but his golden girl's eyes gaze back at her future husband. Seeing this, Charlie's shoulders deflate. His eyes fall downcast and his clenched fingers fall limp at his sides. All of a sudden, Charlie squares his shoulders and walks down the street. His eyes harden as he takes measured steps to his golden girl's house. He waits in the park across the street, patiently sitting on a wooden bench. His eyes stay trained on the door, occasionally flicking toward the window and back again. He stays there until it's dark, and then he slowly stands up. He sticks with his measured steps, breathing calmly. Charlie looks to his left, and then he looks to his right. He sees no one coming down the street, so he jogs across it. His hand follows behind him as he walks around the tree, and when he finds the branch he's looking for, grasps it. Quickly and quietly, Charlie climbs the tree with ease and sturdy steps. When he gets to the right window, he grabs the screwdriver he stored in the tree and unscrews the window with steady hands. He smoothly opens the window, climbs inside, and lets it slide shut behind him. He reaches behind him and lifts his shirt to grab the cold object tucked into his waist pants. No one heard the gunshot that came on later in the night. Several years later, Charlee Carlisle will become a highly successful mortician working at Tufts Hospital. He will live in the suburbs of Boston in a big gray house with navy paneling and shutters. He will marry young, adopt some dogs, and have 4 kids. Charlee would never be caught for murdering his golden girl, and he would never tell anyone of what happened on that dreadful night. His wife knew, of course, of what happened, but only because she would stay up late listening to him sleep talk. She thought they were just nightmares, and she would often wake him up and console his crying in their bed. She would always ask him who this golden girl was, and Charlee would say that she was his lovely golden girl, and that he was afraid to lose her. She would smile at him with those soft pink lips stretched over those pearly whites, and the corners of her emerald eyes would crinkle. She would kiss him on the lips and lay her delicate head on his shoulder. Charlee Carlisle would wrap his arms around his wife and pet her golden locks, enjoying the feel of the rise and fall of her steady breathing. His fingers would trace patterns along her creamy skin, so soft and smooth beneath his touch. Charlee would kiss her on her forehead, all the while thinking of his golden girl in the garden of freesias outside.